And Carlene, who is with the City of Long Beach, and she presented this morning, and going to talk a little bit more about the downtown Long Beach waterfront. But I think, why don't we just do this? I just gave everyone's name, but why don't you just talk a little bit about your organization and what you're doing? We'll start here.
My name is Gunit Anand. I'm an urban designer by profession. I'm an associate principal at SiteLab Urban Studio. We're an urban design and strategy firm based out of San Francisco. Most of our projects are really in the Bay Area and on the waterfront side of things, along with the Port of San Francisco. So I'll give a brief overview of some of our work as we go through, but thank you for taking the time.
103-year-old family business. We finally did a project interesting enough to get the fourth generation of the family business to return from New York and other parts of the country to come be part of West Harlem. So that makes it all worth it, right?
I think you guys have a microphone outside.
Yes, we do. Sorry, I'm hiding back here. I'm advancing the slides.
What's your name?
Feels so rude. I'm gonna throw down because I never really used this, but my sister in the audience, both of us paid our dues and got our PhD. So I'm Dr. Michael Quill. There you go. I'm the Marine Programs Manager at Los Angeles Waterkeeper, dedicated to clean, drinkable, fishable waters. That's my little short phrase. I'm saving my mission statement by Waterkeeper if I get to speak longer about some other things. But I'm really dedicated in this area to our water quality flowing from inland and down through the port. As I mentioned to some folks, I have a colleague that has an aquaculture space set up here. It was in Alta Sea and is across the street. So we're going to expand a little more later. Okay, cool. That's good.
Hi everyone, a lot of you heard me talk earlier. My name is Carlene Hu with the City of Long Beach. I'm a planner that does both current and advanced planning, which means a lot of the private and public development that comes in, help reviewing those plans, but also having the opportunity to develop these long-range plans to help facilitate improvements in the long term across the different little communities, and as well as the general plan regulated by the state.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, we're going to start with Gunit, who has a short presentation talking a little bit about the work she is doing in San Francisco.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. There's more than a decade's worth of work in here, so we'll go through some of the highlights here. Just a little bit about SiteLab before we dive in. So we pride ourselves in designing both physical places as well as processes in terms of both engagements and entitlements, and we really believe that how we do these projects is as important as the what, and scale really doesn't matter. It could be a tactical intervention, it could be some of the long range, large scale that I'll walk through today. These are some of the waterfront projects. So this is San Francisco's urban shoreline. The areas that you're seeing in yellow is port-owned land, 7.5 miles. If you're familiar with San Francisco, it runs all the way from Aquatic Park and through Fisherman's Wharf, all the way down to by Swiss Creek and Heron's Head Park. And so we have been working with the port very closely on this long-range waterfront resilience program, which I'll give an overview of. And another project that I want to touch on briefly is the Pier 70 waterfront redevelopment. So that one is a public-private partnership with Brookfield Properties. The others listed here, Fisherman's Wharf, Waterfront Walk, those are really our work with the port, thinking about some of the more immediate, tactical, near-term steps that we could take while we're navigating the complexities of the long-range planning. So, digging into Pier 70, the next slide. This is a 35-acre site that's part of a 70-acre National Register Historic District. It was used for shipbuilding. After that, and this is when we first started the project, the site was closed for over 100 years to public access. Beautiful buildings, weathered, patinaed, but really no human engagement for over a century. The next slide shows the adjacent neighborhood, very vibrant, full of the creativity and craft movement of San Francisco, the Dog Patch neighborhood. So that served as the inspiration, but also the natural extension of the dock bench community to the waterfront was the focus of this work. So it's a site that brings a potential of, as I said, extending that dock patch sensibility, embracing the industrial history, but also this new urban waterfront, which for San Francisco, a lot of the waterfront is visitor serving and tourist serving. So this became an opportunity to have a local waterfront. That's really what we heard through a lot of our engagement with people that live, work, visited the area. So this is a very quick snapshot of the plan. So this is 35 acres, and the buildings that are labeled with the numbers, buildings 2, 12, 21, really were that cluster of historic buildings that are retained on site. Building 12, just to give you a sense of scale, is 60,000 square foot floor plate, a massive building that was dedicated to retail, arts, light industrial uses. From the get-go, when we first started the project, really open to the public, raccoons and all, leaking roofs and all, just starting to inhabit this space and imagine the potential and what it could hold, and seeing some of the local makers come through and the urban air markets and all the programming that was happening in the neighborhood, just bringing that into the site, helped create this anchor that has stayed and has since been completed and constructed, but that became the focus. And as you can see, something, you know, I kind of take a lot of pride in is we, in all our site plans, really set the bones of the public realm and what people will experience first. Architectural, massing, yield studies, performa, that's all in service of unlocking some of the things that people get to experience. And so through the multiple iterations, looking at different scenarios, the public realm always stayed the same. And I should mention that the site is on public land, and so required rezoning, so we had to go through a public ballot measure and a campaign, and it did pass with 73% support in the end. I'm not speaking to that process at this time, but there was a lot behind the scenes of understanding what was really important to the community and solidifying and locking those measures early through the ballot process actually helped us establish a lot of trust for the remainder of the project. Some of the commitments on the amount of park space, the amount of affordable housing got predetermined at a very early stage that would typically happen much later in the development agreement stages of a project. And so just to codify some of the vision, there was a design guidelines document, so that is one of our products, but I also wanted to say it's really also this group of stewards that we created. I didn't touch on this today, but we, right off the bat, had engaged with Wendy McNaughton, who is an artist who at the time had studio space on site. And the first step before we even did any design or visioning was just what is the Pierce Avenue community in the community's own words. And so she did portraits and collected color palette and swatches of found objects as well as quotes, and that really became foundational vision of the project. And I'd be happy to share photos with anyone. She created this beautiful 10-foot panel that lived in the development group's office that we could reference over and over. All right, on to the Waterfront Resilience Program. So this is the next slide.
Can I ask you a question? Where's Pier 70? Is it off of 3rd Street?
It is off of Illinois, it's very close to 3rd Street.
Okay, it's not in the Naval Station area. It's before that where the bridge is? Sure.
It's south of the bridge. So I can show you on a map that is on...
Just keep going.
I'll point it out.
I grew up there. So.
Oh, okay. All right, we should talk more. This, I mean, just an obvious statement, but just to state, San Francisco is an iconic, beloved waterfront city. And the next slide will show this, but that DNA and the origin story of the city is really at risk. And so this shows you the areas that are vulnerable to sea level rise, which, to no surprise, are areas that were coves that were filled in along some of the creeks. And just if we could stay here for a second, this is where Pier 70 is. So Bay Bridge, just south of Bay Bridge. So I touched on sea level rise, but also we have the dual risks. So we have seismic risks, which are looming. And when I first started on the project, I did not sleep for many nights working on some of this imagery, as you can imagine. And so it's a very complex issue, both to navigate internally as a design team, with the city, with the port as the landholder, but also as a community that is living adjacent to these lands with this dual threat. And so, just very briefly, this is a process that we undertook with the Army Corps of Engineers for the entirety of the 7.5 miles. We established the system of breaking down into beaches. It did not seem appropriate or fair to treat the northern waterfront same as the southern waterfront. There's so much history, there's so much different characters, and there's histories of disinvestment and patterns of planning that have created harm, and so that was a huge factor in how we went about this. And what is in the draft plan just looks like very fat marker drawings in the end, but a lot of hard work went into going down to the inches and the feet and analyzing where do we build these flood defenses? Do we go bayward? That means adding fill into the bay, which comes with its own complexities. Do we pull back and go inland, which means giving up some of the land and assets, or do we stay where we're at? Ultimately, as you may have guessed, the community strongly decided to keep the shoreline where it currently is. And so there are places that moves around, but really protecting our line of defense. And this, we're also really proud to say, was a first for the Army Corps of Engineers. They typically just do a cost-benefit analysis, and what that does is areas that already have had investment continue to get investment because they already have those assets. And so they took on a new model, which was other social effects analysis, which factors in equity and vulnerability. They hadn't done this in any other city in the US. So this just starts to show some of that imagery of navigating where's our line of defense, the opportunity of reshaping the public realm, bringing in issue-based strategies where we're able. So that's the urban constrained condition by the ferry building. The next slide shows you where there's a little bit more land near the creeks. There's room for a more gradual nature-based intervention. And a lot of this was being in conversation with the community about why we're not doing a robust design process at this time. This is a once-in-a-century opportunity to pursue that funding with the Army Corps and establish some of the baseline principles that will guide the design of the future. And so, as an example, none of the flood walls will be taller than 3 feet, and the real impetus for that was anyone in a wheelchair should still be able to have visual access to the waterfront. So these were hard conversations we had with the Army Corps. They have implemented elsewhere just straight up walls that cut off access to the water. And so that was just navigating the complexities of bringing people into the San Francisco culture and values. Won't go into all of this, but I just wanted to surface, like some of the things that I touched on. And I'm very interested with resilience work. Some of it tends to be more engineering-led or infrastructure-led. And we've long been advocates of a more vision-led process. And so, I've taken up my 5 minutes, so I will leave it at that. Thank you.
You're not going to rebuild the Embarcadero Freeway?
We are not going back.
Good timing.
That's amazing.
You just have to look right now at this.
That's amazing.
You're so quiet.
Yeah.
You don't hear sound.
They don't. Do they have tugboats when they come in?
Yes, they meet them out at the breakwater and leave.
A pilot and one or two.
Nobody that is a captain of the ship can bring a ship in. It's the pilot that brings it in.
Wow.
And that's a small ship.
You can tell it's not very well laden in case the valves out of the water. Like groceries.
Supposed to come in full and leave.
For real.
Normal, of course.
Well, this is a great backdrop, Alan, for you to talk a little bit about West Harbor.
I'm used to giving a lot of presentations, but not on these topics, so forgive me for my notes. First of all, I'd love to thank Placemaking US, or us, can I just call you us, and Studio 111 for putting this really great day together. The morning session was fantastic, and I hope this afternoon is just as informative. Really need to thank the Port of Los Angeles, and genuinely, they've been great partners. Our council office through 2 or 3 administrations now, the mayor's office through a couple of mayoral administrations. administrations, it's really been this sort of giant public park. You know, that's such a cliched used word, but I think this might be the only one that's actually real. And also on behalf of Jericho Development and our partners, the Ratkovich Company, who sadly lost their leader, Wayne Ratkovich, last year. We're glad that you're here. So I'm going to hit just kind of three topics. Again, not ones I normally talk about: public access, environmental stewardship, and addressing some climate risks. I think one of the Portugal, you know, we stand on the shoulders of Portugal, or over the dead body of Portugal, because it really got that bad. And it really kind of needed to be, you know, a sad day when it got raised, but it was just run its course. But Portugal was that gathering place where everybody had their first job, everyone had their 50th wedding anniversary, whatever. And we really wanted to be that place where you just come down for a stroll or celebrate something, and the idea that you don't have to know what you're going to do when you come down, right? There's going to be something to do, and you don't have to spend money. It's not requiring that. It's just this place where the community is going to gather. So that was really this overarching. And one of the first things that was done through good work of James Corner Field Operations, our landscape architect, was instead of Portugal, for those that remember, they kind of double-loaded the retail, and there was the best view. You had to go into the businesses to actually see the water. The guys in the kitchen have the best view of it. So then the way it's organized now, it's a 25-foot promenade that just goes straight along the water. So, you know, really making the public access to the water the primary driving design idea here for the general layout. So we then are developing basically 3 public serving spaces. On the very far north, this is sort of our temporary space. It's about 15,000 square feet. It's going to have a stage. It's going to have a lawn area, beer gardens, a pop-up food, coffee, and it's also the place that touches the street grid of downtown San Pedro, which is a really critical planning idea and connectivity idea that we have embraced. For one thing, we've been working in downtown San Pedro for the last 40 years. So it's really important that downtown not get left out. So the idea that our customers will go up, explore downtown, all the new residents in downtown will come to the waterfront, and it'll extend our development and include downtown, which is key for us. The second one is what we're calling Central Park, which is, because it's in the center of the thing, we're still working on names. It's about 30,000 square feet, and this will be the community events, it could be corporate events, it could be available but there'll always be some programming going on there. That's our idea. Again, getting back to, you don't have to know what's going on down here, because there will always be something going on. And our last big space is the 100,000 square foot amphitheater complex with a big stage house and the 50,000 square foot lawn that will, during show nights, it will be the 6,200 seat amphitheater about the size of the Greek Theater. And not on show nights, it'll be a big picnic play area, it'll be a place for graduations, for cultural events, we can program it all year, and when it's not that, it's just a place to hang out, kick the soccer ball, if you're careful. So those are basically our 3 public areas. A little bit about the environment. We take this, it's a very environmentally sensitive spot. We take this responsibility very seriously. One of the challenges we have is, we're right on the water with a mile-long waterfront and winds, which we're not having today, but occasionally we do get winds. And so it's really important for us that we keep plastics out of the water. first of all, we generate as few plastics on site as we can by not having single-use plastics, no polystyrene in the development, biodegradable and recyclable foodware, food accessories, and really focus as much in having day porters and having these abilities to collect it and take care of it, dispose of it, and then develop techniques in partnership potentially with some nonprofits that we've been working with, that when it inevitably gets in the water, we address it, we take it out, and we really, this is a really important part of what we do for our sake, for the community. It's something that's very important to us. We will also, and we've begun talking to Surfrider Foundation. For those familiar with Surfrider, they have a ocean-friendly restaurant program, and so we've met with them. We've got there, and we will endeavor to get our tenants to sign up for it, and hopefully get the whole development to be an ocean-friendly development, which talks about single-use plastics, talks about all the things that are that we're going to do anyway. We will also be LEED certified silver, which will be enable us to we have this capability through solar panels and to basically generate more electricity than we use, and so we're very proud of that fact. So climate risk. We also kind of use that 3-foot wall idea, and one of the things I personally was surprised, maybe others in the team weren't, that when we started this and started the design work, there was no requirement that we do anything about it. We didn't have to put it up on anything. It's just like, oh yeah. Lastly, I'll finish up with this, the idea of connectivity between downtown and the waterfront and West Harbor. Waterfront. From the USS Iowa, Alta Sea, we're
The sailing, the sailing venue. You guys are trying to get that sailing venue.
Okay, look at that.
But I think it'd be really cool here. I have to say, it'd be very
we have
cool.
better wind. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you've got the. Can I tell you just a really quick personal story? I don't know if I've ever told this to you, but when I was a kid and I was in high school, I took a train. I'm from New York. I took a train to Boston to visit my aunt. And one night she's like, "We're gonna go to this new place. We're gonna take you downtown." And they took me to this place, and it was fantastic. And it was Quincy Market, a new development. And I just remember thinking, this is incredible. I mean, there were so many. It was so much fun, and there were so many things to see, and it was so kind of hopeful. And it was also, like, I would say, festive, which is not a term you would use for downtowns during the 70s, 1970s. Downtowns were really coming down, and this is a place that lifted it up. And I just remember thinking, this is fantastic. It really affected me. And I think, looking back on that experience was maybe set the germ of motion of my professional career as an architect, to build places that could be so comfortable and attractive to people that they'd want to stay and be together in a place. And so it really affected me. I think it affected a lot of other people too, because it was its success, I believe, was one of the factors that started to lead to more investment in downtowns and fueled the downtown revival that we still see going on today. And that project was designed by an amazing architect, Ben Thompson, but also the developer who actually had the vision with Ben on it, and that was James Rouse.
Of Baltimore Inner Harbor, who was also, coincidentally, Wayne Rakovich was a big fan and had a great connection with Rouse. So if you know Wayne's career, it's different, but it's so similar that it's that vision that all of a sudden changed his whole career, his whole life.
Absolutely. And what?
Rouse and family developer.
And a family developer, and started Festival Marketplace in Baltimore. And Wayne was a mentor to me, and one of my earliest clients, and probably my most influential client. And we do miss him terribly, but he's the one that introduced me to this project. We've gotten to work with you and Eric on it, which has been incredible. But it's, for me, a full circle. From going to Faneuil Hall as a kid and seeing this amazing place, and then having a chance to work on this project, which is kind of somewhere in the lineage of that. So it's really been a fantastic journey, I can say. And it's only been for you 15 years, but
Who's counting?
yeah, exactly.
Me.
Okay. I'm gonna turn over to Carlene. I don't. Do you have a presentation, or are you just gonna? Okay, great. Carlene's gonna talk a little bit more. We're gonna go across south a little bit to Long Beach.
So you heard me earlier talk about and show a video of the downtown Shoreline vision plan. We can talk a little bit about it. I'll be really quick. And Alan's here to help me if I get a little bit confused because it's been a long day. Studio 111 did a really amazing job, as well as Placeworks, to kind of think about the shoreline together with our community. And one of the biggest strategies we're thinking, we have several strategies, and the first is an enhanced waterfront experience. One of the main things we hear from the community is it's very hard to get around. It's a very isolated area. And if you've never tried to walk around, it is very difficult. So how we could do that would be to just connect it better through like a more uniform pathway, which includes a pedestrian way and opportunities for cyclists as well. Sorry, it's glaring. The second strategy is to create a waterfront that's accessible to all, and that means not just providing wayfinding to make it easier to understand where you are, reducing car congestion, improving the accessibility for everyone, so improving ADA access, and that means addressing grades that may be too steep for people in wheelchairs to go traverse across, and better multimodal transportation. A welcoming, affordable waterfront with a variety of things to do and see. Affordability and ensuring that the community can still continue to recreate, as well as invite a unique set of people from everywhere, is that unique balance we are trying to find. We want to make it an area that residents can play and recreate, and it's still a comfortable place for people to come and visit as well and stay. That means careful planning is needed to kind of balance all of these potential recreational opportunities and the ability to stay and live and have a great community within the downtown shoreline area. Is that where you see here that that's shown with all the facilities? To have a cleaner and more resilient waterfront, so pollution control, thinking about how we can have more regular trash cleanup through barges. Our Parks, Recs, and Marine team has technology where they're skimming the water, and a lot more needs to be done, obviously, to help clean up the water. And we want to also make sure that whatever we build is resilient in the face of climate change, so having a very flexible waterfront. A lot of what you saw earlier was a connection of infrastructure in which water can come up into public spaces but retreat, and it's still a space that the public can use. And that's the idea with the flexible waterfront there, with adapted and retreated edges. And a financially sustainable public space. So we're attracting businesses, and businesses are able to stay to help produce revenue. We are in the corner, you'll see there, marina expansion. Right now there's a wait list for our boat slips, and so having boats with the opportunity to have their boats there as well. And then when I was talking earlier about having a more cohesive vision with the city, that means across the way with Queen Mary, how can we ensure that there's this kind of permeability across the two areas, with the Queen Mary area as well as the downtown shoreline. And we want to think about equitable policies. How can we program and prepare for a shoreline that meets everyone? That means really highlighting existing culture of Long Beach, making it a place where this is Long Beach and we're very proud of it. I loved what Lori said about affinity. How can our community feel close to their shoreline as they co-create this plan with us? And of course, uplifting the Long Beach history as well. I'm gonna leave it there.
Perfect. That was fantastic. Thanks, Carmen. And what would the waterfront be without the water? Ryan would say like what? I don't know. No, there's a perspective of what's going on in the water that Michael Quill LA Waterkeeper is going to talk about it a little bit. Michael knows more than you want to know about the water.
I will, and I'll spare you. I've been requested to touch on a little bit of it, but I won't go all the way there. But yeah, so here's the mission, LA Waterkeeper, LA's version of it. So, and it's like the Gettysburg Address to me. I like one quick sentence, but this is a Los Angeles Waterkeeper's mission is to fight. Interesting, I have to say fight for the health of the region's waterways and for sustainable, equitable, and climate-friendly water supplies. We envision the Los Angeles region as an international leader of integrated, sustainable, and equitable water management. A region that is water self-sufficient, we can always hope, and where all waterways, that was my little ad-lib there, and where all waterways throughout the county are safe, healthy, and accessible to the public. I'm down with all that. It's a long way away. And I think, I'm glad I had that meeting the other day because I'm thinking, I get really impatient, and I think maybe by the end of my life, I don't think these things are going to happen, but a 50-year plan and how we can implement what Waterkeeper's starting now, and my colleagues are starting now, stormwater recycling, recapturing, better water treatment of our sewers, the effluent that comes out of our water treatment plants. The Hyperion sewage treatment plant will be rebuilt, but it's going to be 40 years before that gets there. We will get there, and we're in the dredges now. And some of the things that I was sharing and talking about, I'm not having a real good, fun time out there on the water now because my claim to fame now, metaphor for my life, I think, is this new program I have, is following the feces. And it's following the human feces because I think there's a lot of human feces in the water. It's never really been proven, and nobody wants to really prove it. So for some reason, I'm drawn to what nobody wants to do. But I'm finding the early results astounding. And not just me, I'm an eco-psychologist, community and liberation psychologist. So I'm dealing with the ecosystem and the psychology of how we all play together to create what we're living in, and building community and liberating us from thinking in those habituated ways. But the results that I'm seeing, I can look at a chart, and at first I was like, man, it all passed. No, Michael, the microbiologist called me and said, the testing passed. It was legitimate. The numbers that you're getting are off the charts as an amount of human feces. All right, I know that. I knew there was some there. It's going to be a slow axe to grind, but becoming aware of that, what are the next steps? Are we going to be able to solve that problem and find out where it's leaking, what's not being treated, what's leaking into our storm drains and into Dominguez Channel, which flows right down through here, and the Biona Creek, and then LA River. Not to mention the amount of sewage spills that we have on a pretty regular basis. That's not going to happen anytime soon, but what I can get is an awareness that this is happening, and somebody other than a nonprofit getting involved in the act to let the public know what's going down in the water, so we can make a choice of whether we want to get in the water. It's alarming, but it's really why I got into this business. I started in as LA Waterkeeper as a diver. I wanted to do something for the planet. I was going through physical rehab, got advanced diving, restoring kelp forest up and down the coast. I'm talking about mapping the substrate. I did 4 years underwater. I was very happy underwater, very happy. When I found out how much human feces was being dumped in the water in Malibu, a septic system, and resistance to making that change, I was astounded. So I got drawn into the vortex of what's going on now. And I went to school with Madeline. We studied things, and I had a very heartfelt dissertation that I was building this on. It was a call to do this work. Well, it shifted, and I'm dealing with the business of nonprofit environmentalism. And that is what it is, and that's what we're talking about. That's Terry, the originated at Santa Monica Baykeeper, which is LA Waterkeeper. He's the CEO at Altasea, business for profit and nonprofit. There's a lot of rift between it. That's what we've got to do, and that's why I'm really encouraged by what I'm hearing. What I heard from Baltimore, that blew my mind, because I grew up outside Baltimore. You used to go Fells Point, not only risk your life going there, you weren't quite sure what you were going to eat was going to be healthy or not. But to see that they've chipped away it, they've still got problems, but to see this action happening and see a blending of profit and nonprofit working together, that's where we've got to go. It's so interesting because I was over there at Altasea the other day, and I'm Terry, what the hell are these big stainless steel things? They're for the brewery. here. I mean, so we're all working together, and I think that's the key to community involvement, positive movement, getting the water cleaner and cleaner as best we can, stormwater recapture, water treatment plants, and then my team, I work with a lot of lawyers, and we go after people that violate the Clean Water Act. Storm runoff from tar manufacturers and different manufacturers that violate it, runs into the street and storm drains into our creeks and rivers and out to the ocean. So we go after that. We have Surfrider pushing for the non-plastics. Well, if those restaurants break the rules, they'll call Waterkeeper because we got the legal muscle to play with them and say, let's get it going. So I think that's, you know, and I will say I have a slide presentation, and I was saying it was like, oh, I'm so depressed. It's just, it was not, but that's a snapshot of what we got going on right now, and we can build a positive energy off that. And we've got the amount of human feces in the water directly feeds this harmful algal bloom that's offshore now, that's killing the sea lions, dolphins, it's affected our sea life as well. We're not supposed to eat any of the fish that come out of this area. So it's all interconnected, and that's why I work in this way. But I will say, just sitting down with you all on the Zoom call the other day, I pulled out and I was like going, because I was like, Michael, you gotta bring something positive to this, actions that are positive. Because, you know, people say I'm jaded, and then a few days later, well, you're a nice color of jade. You're not really all, but just to have some kind of mojo that's rising and we're moving, and it's so great to be around this mojo, I gotta say.
That's great, because actually I think one of the themes that we heard from a lot of the cities this morning was the real work they're doing to make the water habitable. Baltimore was amazing, the big plunge, that was super cool to see. And I'm sure that, you know, awareness though is absolutely key.
Education and awareness, I mean, that's part of our weakness. Without the education, raising the awareness and then getting voters to vote on policy, push for policy to be changed, that's big.
I love seeing how people were engaging water in other cities, and it's something for us to continue working towards. What about San Francisco? Are there issues about, you know, there's this movement called swimmable cities in Europe. Is San Francisco trying to not only redevelop some of their areas and then make it resilient to sea level rise, but also make it more swimmable?
I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that, but there's a huge swimming culture. There's just, you know, aquatic park is already a place that you can go out on a day that's all foggy. Carl the Fog is out in his glory, and people are still swimming, or a sunny day. And so that's very much part of the DNA. What we're coming across through all of our visioning work is a lot more desire for kayak launch points and recreational access. We're not hearing that much about swimming, and I think we have our contamination issues to wrestle with, particularly some of the projects that I've been across have been areas that were industrial in the past, and so that's very much kind of, you know, both in access to the water as well as some of the soil contamination, and how we have amenities for playgrounds and kids while still navigating contamination on the soil side as well, and on the land side as well. And so, yeah, I can't speak as much as Michael can to the water side, but there's certainly a desire for more recreational access to the water.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how much we just screw things up. So, but Alan, you do see a vision for recreational water things happening right here. You mentioned them, maybe you just repeat them.
Yes, we are currently with, I mentioned, I forgot to mention, see, I had notes and I still forgot to mention. Our waterside master subtenant, Danny Salas, the Harbor Breeze Cruise, who also runs operations in Long Beach, is now building a hybrid, diesel electric boat, tour boat, that will be able to do emissions-free tour, not emissions. It'll definitely cost money. Tours of the harbor, which is an exciting thing. But the other thing that we're working with is, for instance, the Duffy boat folks out of Newport are very interested in bringing those small electric boats up and being part of We have an operator who wants to do kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding. There's a stand-up paddleboard group that leaves every Sunday out, and the guy is Brandemir's his name. He does these great videos, and where I would have thought personally, like, what's there to? I mean, Newport, I guess you see houses and big boats. Well, here we have really big boats. It's just really fascinating, and so the idea that there's something to see. You know, obviously we have issues with the other ship traffic and stuff, but either tour-led. But there are people that are running these operations that are very eager, very anxious to do it. I just know, I think it's Heal the Bay that gives the grades for the beaches. I know our outer harbor always gets, or outside the breakwater gets an A+, and we're usually Fs inside, F minuses maybe, inside the breakwater.
So I have a question, maybe. Carly, when we're doing the waterfront, we know we have to deal with the Coastal Commission. There's so many jurisdictions too, right? There's Army Corps of Engineers, and you have navigable waters. Like, is California a hard place to make change happen?
I would say there are a lot of opportunities to build relationships. One of the main things that the City of Long Beach is working with, and Coastal Commission is the main agency in which we want to ensure that they're part of the vision process, to ensure that down the line there's a lot of things that need to be discussed or kind of worked out. So I will say that the process of working with the Coastal Commission staff and having their buy-in on a month-to-month basis has been very fruitful in trying to navigate possibly past difficulties in developing along the coast. And our vision plan ideally speaks to the heart and intent of the Coastal Act. That is to make this area accessible to all for recreation and to protect our waterfront. I didn't talk about it earlier, but a key part of the plan is also to include a brand new wetland where Catalina Landing is, and repositioning them so that they have a bit more access to, it's easier to get there for people, and to produce this wetland that can hopefully sequester carbon and create a more resilient area. And interestingly enough, if you reposition Catalina Landing and place a wetland there, it could reduce dredging costs. So there's a little bit of financial benefit. So it's something we're looking at. But back to your point, it can be difficult to kind of balance the different voices, but I think that's kind of the job, and it's important to do because everybody comes with, or we like to believe that everyone comes with good intent to achieve a great vision for everyone.
How about in San Francisco? I know that it's a very engaged community. What are the kind of jurisdictional issues you're dealing with on some of your planning efforts?
Yeah, I would say one, we don't have, for example, a Department of Resilience. And this work is both emergent and there's evolving science, and we're seeing the port as the landholder is also navigating their evolving identity of now being the entity that could hold the primary responsibility for the resilience of the city. And so I think that in and of itself has been a journey to navigate. There's definitely ownership across the board that varies. We have Rec and Park Department lands. We have DPW, which is our Department of Public Works. We have the SFMTA, which is the transportation, and we have the Embarcadero, which carries a lot of our transportation infrastructure, right up against the port properties, which we're needing to go into depth. So one, as a city itself, there's so many layers of different bodies to navigate. Then, the Tidelands Trust and the BCDC, and which I also sit on the BCDC's design review board, so I wear different hats in that sense. And then navigating federal processes with the Army Corps, being the funding partner. There's just so many different, even agreeing to a vocabulary of how we talk about some of these issues, how we communicate risk carefully, especially because we were doing a lot of our engagement through the pandemic where people were already burdened with a lot of other risk information at the same time. And so I think there's just more nuance in developing that common ground that takes a lot of active intentional work, then agreeing to a process. And that in and of itself, I think, as I said, in a design-led process, we typically lead with vision. In an engineering-led process, as some of this shoreline work it's really a lot about the technicalities and talking to communities about the nuts and bolts of how the seawall is or isn't performing is a very different type of a conversation. And so, yeah, I think it's a lot of active communication and having some goalposts that we can all agree to. I would say, I think, one of the, as I mentioned, it was very important as a city to hold our values true when meeting with a federal partner. And I think that was probably, it took the most intentional work in crafting. We created what we called a city champions group. So we had different representatives from different city agencies showing up to talk directly to the Army Corps as well. So it wasn't just the port carrying that relationship. And that became very important in one unified city body that could speak to the aspirations of the city as a whole and not be in competing interests with each other.
Great. Well, I mean, it is a lot of work, but then again, you put 15 years into this, and we're here. We can imagine in a year coming back, having a beer and some. It's gonna be an amazing place. I could just imagine it, and being here really helps to do that. I just want to know, does anyone have any questions for the panel? Any thoughts or something you want to share that you think they missed? Oh, Ryan. Yeah.
Michael, is the fecal matter from the Hyperion wastewater treatment plant or some other source, like the drains from the LA River?
Well, there's no effluent going into Iona Creek, and there's high indications of fecal matter there. Dominguez Channel comes down through Maywood, Carson. It's not necessarily what's being treated, it's what's seeping from the sewer lines. I gotta say, I find the dysfunction of the government to be incredibly hard to navigate. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this work. I think one hand doesn't know what the other's doing. I'm just gonna say a blanket statement, and I'm sitting here thinking about this development. I'm thinking, how many toilets are flushing into this system? And I'm like, and then we have the building of the wind turbines that are going to go on out there. It's going to be all electric. We're not going to pollute. It's not going to displace people. There's so much human activity and so much feces on many different metaphoric levels that it's overflowing, and we have an overtapped sewage system. Area up in my area, Playa Vista was an estuary. I remember prior to 1990, it was open. It was naturally filtering. Now, a good-meaning environmental nonprofit, is complaining about the fact that there are all these buildings and condos that have 5 toilets per apartment flushing into a system that's overtaxed. It's got to go somewhere. What I'm hearing from the engineers and microbiologists, because I'm not an expert in this field, I'm just like connecting the dots and working with that, is that to bypass costs, sometimes the tie-ins to the sewer system are not up to speed. So those are the ones that are breaking, getting overused. We have multiple seepages quite often. Hyperion was a big one. Hyperion was a masterclass in dysfunction. And the masterclass in hiring people at a low rate, not able to do the job properly. I mean, it was just as bad as it could get. It's bad. Now, the rebuild on that is to 2050, and that's probably optimistic. It's not going to be. In the meantime, it's going to be a constant flow where there's constant mini discharges, but we're having constant breaks. We just had one in up the Dominguez Channel 2 weeks ago. We had an oil spill up there now. These are constantly going on. We don't hear about them. So it's a constant thing. That's what I'm alarmed at, because I'm doing dry sampling and wet sampling. And I'm getting high hits of feces. Now, I don't have enough to publish yet. And I'm gathering mine, but I'm working with Southern California Water Research Project to do a 2-year study up and down the coast of California to see how prevalent this is. And we're seeing a lot of ocean acidification off the coast here, fed by nutrients, feces, coming out of that. Now, I will say, one of the reasons I'm doing this study is to force the government to do their job. The county should be doing this kind of sampling. They don't want to do it. It's not a popular thing. You're going to come to LA if you know there's not much feces in the water. They do. Gila Bay does a lot of work. They don't test for human feces. The Gila Bay's reports are also 4 to 5 days old by the time you get them. My push is we should know what's in the water more completely and more, in a more timely manner. So, brother, it's coming from everywhere. I mean, we are full of it. So it's something that but when I sit back and I go 50 years, we got time and we have the technology. We just have to focus on it and make it a priority. And that comes from maybe, hopefully, producing this white paper, getting peer reviewed, and getting the public to go, wait a minute, county, step up and do this job. But they don't want to do it. One of the reasons I have to make it really bulletproof, this data, not Michael Poole, eco-psychologist, that's not going to get me anything. But the brainiacs paying extra for a great lab, SWIRP, Southern California Water Research Project, is that it has to be bulletproof because they will slice and dice your information to get around doing it. So that's what I mean. That's the dance I see. And Madeline was with me when I made the turn and I went, this system is totally dysfunctional. And it was really around fishing and going to the Department of Fish and Game Commission, Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Coastal Commission, and seeing the game being played in a dysfunctional way. And we lose what we have in common. That's the planet, the water, and the essence of life that we all share. We talked about the healing power in Ohio. I mean, we get in the swirl of things. God bless you for sticking with it, brother. I mean, and the vision is pure. I can hear it. You can feel it, right? We just have to keep on keeping on. And, I'm sitting here going, how many toilets, how many trucks are going by? They're not going to be electric. Then how much pollution, air pollution we're going to have? They say they're going to be electric. You can get eaten up in this, but to go step by step, and if we're going to have the county doing their job, and they have to be forced to do their job, that's what it says in Waterkeeper's statement, fighting for it. You really got to fight for something that seems so clear, and we should be able to paddle more. We should be able to, but we had to fight for clean water because of the intricacies of what we got. That Playa Vista, I remember when I moved to LA, Martin Mull, the late actor, I just said, let's just kind of get chained to a chain link fence down there saying, you can't build here. And that's when Spielberg put a bid in, he was going to build a studio in Playa Vista, it's going to be great. He pulled out, they put condos on. And now everybody's complaining about the overload of the sewer system. And I'm like, you signed off on allowing Stephen to build his studio. So that's the dysfunction, Coastal Commission, government, those kinds of things that we have to navigate. And
How many toilets on the site?
It's an excellent question. How many toilets on site? Exactly what code requires. That's how many.
There you go. Good answer. Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of like, and it wasn't like that down here, when Altisi stepped in, you know what it was like down there.
Yeah.
He's done a
But
good
the
job.
reality is the municipalities run the wastewater business.
Yeah.
I mean, water districts run water.
Exactly.
Municipalities, I used to be in the business, okay? There's a lot of private companies that want to operate wastewater plants, that want to expand wastewater plants, and all that other kind of stuff. They're constantly working with municipalities all the time. Hyperion is one thing, but anybody can sit there and go, let's expand. It's up to the municipalities to participate, okay? So it's dual. It's happening.
It's there, right?
Yeah, well, we have a major reclamation project down in Orange County and stuff like this. This stuff takes a while and all that kind of stuff. But people have to have the municipal will to do it.
Exactly.
But it's doable and it's happening.
And we've got, Ask to Tap happening. It's happening. Tillman and Van Nuys is going to be. Carson's got to kick it in. But it's like you said, it's there in front of us. It's just pushing it to get it done.
All right, that's a good one. Ma'am, no more thesis questions.
I wanted to just bring full circle about even just the idea of placemaking and water. And you guys know we just had these fires and people are talking about how the water is, when the rain comes, the water washes in. And this whole cycle, a lot of times, everything's so siloed, and we're talking about all the layers. But the thing is, to me, if we're talking about the waterfront, and we do aspire to be able to swim in our water again, like, to me, it's really important to have that. And, like, I mean, I know, like, his job, he's out on the water all day. And you take kids out on the water that have never, from the prison, who've never even been out on water. And then I see you in the paper going out when it rains in storm, and the neighbors in areas that have more waste are catching contaminated water in their neighborhoods, and they're seeing it, and it's like it all runs together eventually. So it's about people really having that knowledge that we live in a desert, water is really important, and how can we care about the water as much as we do the land and make it into this beautiful reciprocal relationship that we haven't, because of industry, for many years not cared much about it. And, I mean, I was doing a freeway project up in Seattle, and the whole Duwamish River Valley is Boeing industry, and they're contaminating that water, and when there's rise, it contaminates the whole village of South Park, their houses, everything. And I'm just saying, it's all interlinked. So I just think it's so important. That's one of the reasons I was like, well, we're talking about waterfronts, we should talk about LA waterkeeping and what is going on with the water.
And I'm glad we brought that perspective in. It's really important. But I do believe that, and I'm kind of hopeful, because 50 years isn't that long. And we have time to work on things, and we are ingenious. There are so many success stories of harbors that have been reclaimed and waterways that have been cleaned. It's a process we're going through. It's going to take some time. It's take a while to mess it up. But I'm hopeful that with this knowledge and people understanding the importance of the ecosystem, that we'll make some changes. So, what we can do is, why don't we do this? It's 4 o'clock. I think that's when we're supposed to end. We can go on the terrace, have some wine, we can continue the conversation informally. I don't want to keep everyone just sitting here. It's too nice out, actually, to sit in this room any longer. I want to thank the panelists for coming and talking about the projects, and thank you guys for being here. And I hope you enjoyed the day. There's so much. We're going to try to download those presentations and share them, because they were fantastic. And we'll keep on talking out there. Thanks.